Got a countdown from the live stream. Good evening, I'm Dr. Anton Reese. I continue to have the privilege serving here as president of West Kentucky Community Technical College. Tonight, gosh, is indeed a very, very special program. It's entitled Remember the Forgotten, hearing this incredible story from Sarah Collins-Rudolph. We are assembled here today, and I'm always reflecting two quick lessons from history. I always remember Reverend Hosea Williams, the civil rights, one of the civil rights leaders, said he or she that is ignorant of their history is destined to repeat it. The second part, you take the word history and you split it in half, Brent, his story, but tonight we're going to hear her story. Absolutely looking forward to that as well. We'll also have a book signing afterwards and a reception in the back, so please participate in that. But as I swivel down to my right, I definitely want to welcome and recognize Associate Professor Stacy Watson, who really is the visionary facilitator, coordinator of this program. Applaud, Stacy. Thank you so much, Stacy Watson, for that as well, too. And as we get started, I also want to recognize again our veterans. If you can wave wherever you are, thank you for your service and sacrifice on this Veterans Day as well. With that, Stacy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be here this evening. I am so happy that you all are in attendance this evening. I am looking forward to the discussion with Miss Sarah Collins-Rudolph, the fifth little girl. And I just want to just quickly say that when we talk about history, we often talk about the most common things in history. And I think it's important to always talk about history that can be lost or forgotten. And I want to make sure that we remember the forgotten, we introduce these topics, and we continue to talk about them. So I want to make sure that we continue to have the conversation, the difficult conversations, and most importantly, tell the truth. So I think it's important that we have a truth teller, which is going to be Miss Sarah Collins-Rudolph. And I just want to say, please come on up so we can start our discussion. And it's very thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Collins, for being here this evening and sharing this space. It is definitely an honor to speak to a living legend, to talk about what happened on this day. So first, I want to set the scene. When we're talking about Birmingham, it was nicknamed Bombingham because of all of the bombs that were detonated during this time. Can you give us some context of what was happening in 1963?
Yes, in 1963, it was a lot of picketing, marching to get our voting rights. And the whites at that time, they didn't want us to get our voting rights, so we had to get out and march. And so many homes was bombed. I remember they bombed Lawyer Shure's house. He was Martin Luther King's lawyer, so they had bombed his house up 2 times. And also they bombed Fred Shuttlesworth's home, and he had his portraits at his church, and they bombed it twice also. It was a lot of bombing going off. I think they said it was at least about 40 bombings during that time in the 60s.
Now, why do you think Birmingham was a target?
I really believe Birmingham was a target because they said Birmingham, Alabama was the most segregated city in the South. We had people like Bull Connor, who was the commissioner. He promoted a lot of violence, and also the fire departments, when the marchers go out and march, Bull Connor would have the fire hose put on the people, and young people and old, and they would ski it across the street because the power from those fire hose would really knock the skin off of people. And also the police, Bull Connor would travel in a army tank, and he would let the people know, the police, put the police dogs on the young people that was marching. So it was really bad in the city of Birmingham.
Now, I know when we look at this picture here behind us, you were 12 years old at this time. And before we take in this picture, I just want to help envision what was life like before this happened for you. What were your aspirations and dreams before all of this happened?
Well, I was at the age of 12, and just really started going to school, and I wanted to go to school and learn, and go to church. We were all church goers, and my mother, she kept us in church, and I never did think that they would bomb a church. There was something that was never in my mind they would do the 16th Street Baptist Church. So I had to during that time that when all that was going on, it was just a way of life during that time, because I didn't know any better, because that's the way we lived.
So it was always segregated for you?
Yes, during that time, yes.
And when we think about segregation during this time, you had African Americans separate from European Americans or white Americans. And when we think about the separation, what do you feel, like, how do you feel about that time ultimately?
Well, I would see my mother always going to these meetings. I really didn't know what it was all about until I got older and found out that they was trying to meet at the church and let the people know what they was going to do, because what they did when they marched, they would go to the fire departments and the stores, try to get people to hire black people, but they wouldn't. You couldn't even get a clerk job, cashier or anything like that in Alabama. So they marched. They had to march because the thing that they did back there then, it was wrong. I remember how my mother would go to the store to shop for our shoes. They wouldn't let us try the shoes on. So my mother had to put a piece of paper on the floor and mark the size of our feet, because they wouldn't let us try it on. And things like the movie theaters, they didn't want us to sit downstairs. They always put us up in the basement. And all this that was happening, like color fountains, white fountains. If they catch you drinking water from the white fountain, they'll put you in jail. So it was just rough. Mm-hmm.
So why did you stay in Birmingham experiencing this?
Well, at that time, a lot of people were leaving. They took their families to Detroit, Chicago, and places like that to live with their families out of town, but we really didn't have anywhere to go because our people was in Birmingham, Alabama. So we stayed. I wanted to go. I wanted to go bad. I wanted to leave, but it just didn't happen.
Okay. So I know we showed our audience a clip of what happened on Sunday, September 15th, 1963, where you lost your older sister. And I know that may be very hard to relive this moment over and over again. Are you able to share with us what really happened on this day?
Oh, yes. September 15th, we was gonna have a youth day program. And we were so excited that day. We left home, and my sister Jane and Addie, we was all together. We walked about 17 blocks to the church. And while we was walking that day, Jane, she had a little purse, and it was shaped like a football. And we were just playing and throwing it all the way to church that morning. Just real happy because we knew that we was gonna be in the youth day program. We was gonna sing in the choir, and young people was gonna take up the money and read the scripture and all that. So when we arrived that morning, Janie came down in the basement. Our class was in the basement, so she came down and she freshened up. She left Addie and I down in the ladies' lounge. So she went on up to her class, and she said, Addie, you and Sarah make sure you go to your class. But we didn't go. We decided we'll stay in the ladies' lounge because, we was late anyway. So while we was in the ladies' lounge, that's when we began to look out the door because we could see our class sitting out in the middle of the floor. So all of a sudden, that's when the class turned out. That's when Denise McNair, Cynthia Wesley, and Carol Robinson, they came into the ladies' lounge and went on to use the stall. And when they came out, Denise McNair, she was in front of the girl. So she walked over to Addie. Addie was across from me by the couch. I was at the sink. We was a few feet away. So Denise, she walked over to Addie and turned around, and she said, Addie, tie my belt, the little sash on the dress, what you call the sash thing. So anyway, Addie reached out to tie it, and all of a sudden, boom! And it scared me so bad, all I could say was, Jesus! I called his name. And then I said, Addie, Addie, Addie. But she didn't answer. So I didn't know what had happened, really, until I heard someone holler, somebody bombed the 16th Street Church, and his voice was so clear as though he was in there with us. But right where they were standing, across there, it blew a big crater, and it just knocked them down. And I thought they had ran back to the Sunday school area because the debris blinded me. So I didn't know what had happened. So anyway, I found out who this person was. He was one of the deacons, because he told me later on that year who he was. He said, let me know when he heard the noise downstairs, he decided to take the steps to come and see what it was. But when he began to take the step, he said the step was blown away. So he jumped down, and he looked into the place into the crater, and he seen me standing. And he came in and picked me up in his arm, and he carried me out to the ambulance. They was already out there waiting. And so when I got to the hospital, they brought me in, and the nurse looked at me and she said, well, you're going to have to lay on the cot because the eye doctor not in now. So I laid there, and then all of a sudden, later on, Janie came in, my little sister, and I said, where is Addie? And she said, Addie hurt her back. She was going to come visit me tomorrow. So I said, okay. I thought, they ran over to the other side, and I was the only one that got hurt. Then found out when they bought me, operated on my eyes, and I went to my room, and my mother was up there, and that's when she told me that all the girls that was in the ladies' lounge with you, they was all killed, and I was the only survivor.
So you were literally standing across from your sister and 3 friends when the bomb happened or went off?
Yes.
And the floor just dropped, gave away?
Well, out where I was standing, the floor didn't give away, but where they were, it did, because they were right there where they was standing. That's where they had placed the bomb. 'Cause it was, like I said, it was under the steps, and the window was, and they was by the window, and that's how, when it went off, I was blind in both my eyes.
And you have been living with this all this time
Yeah.
of losing your sister and 3 friends. So when we look at this picture behind us, you're 12 years old and you were not able to see out of either eye at the time.
No, at that time, you know, but when they operated on my eyes, I remember when they took the bandage off my eyes, that's when my doctor came in. He was asking me, he said, "What do you see out of your left eye?" I said, "I see a little light." "What do you see out of your right eye?" I told him I can't see anything. So I was blinded instantly in my right eye. And, you know, back there during that time, we really didn't have any counseling. So I stayed home about almost just a few days. So I went back to school. Before when I got out the hospital, that's when my doctor told my mother to bring me back February because they were going to have to remove my right eye. And if they didn't remove it, I would go blind in my left eye. And like I said, I didn't get any counseling. You know, they just let me go back to school, and I was still in a nervous condition. I was still fearful when I began to hear loud sounds. I was still jump because they heard that bomb all across the city of Birmingham. And my husband's church was on the south side. He said it shook his church, and they had to turn out, and heard that it just rocked the church. And every time you hear people talking about it, they tell you they heard that bomb. It was very powerful. I don't know how they made it, but it was a very powerful bomb. And the cars, you know, that was parked outside of the church, they was total.
Oh, wow.
And I just always think, myself, small as I was, I just came out losing an eye. But I don't know what they put in those bombs. They said that it was Cahaba boys, and they made that bomb on the Cahaba River, the Ku Klux Klan.
Yes, because it was revealed that the Ku Klux Klan had placed 19 sticks of dynamite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 19.
19 sticks of dynamite that basically ripped apart the church and any of your future dreams.
Yeah.
So let's go back to this part about you had to go to school and you did not receive counseling. So nowadays we encourage mental health awareness. We're always talking about counseling. We provide that as resources for our schools and our students, and that's the first thing that we're providing. Then you had to go back to school and carry on with your life.
It was hard because, you know, back there then, prosthetic, when, you know, the prosthetic that they made for me, it was just like going into the drugstore picking one up. They didn't really, they didn't fix it like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
You can go places and they shape you up for it and everything. So when I went to school, I thought it was gonna fall out of my eye. I was scared, and I wasn't the same no more.
Right, absolutely. So walking back into the school, and how were you able to even function, to go to school? How long did you stay? Did you stay in school after this?
Yes, because I went right back. I went home a week, and I had to go back that February, and they removed it, and I had to go back to school with this little big thing over my eye, and I was just fearful, and I was really ashamed because, at that age, you just really coming into the world, but I had to live with that.
Wow. And so, talking about counseling, were you able to get counseling at any point afterwards?
No. When I got older, what I did, I had found out about smoking marijuana and drinking me a little drink. So that's what I did, to calm my nerves.
This was your method of coping?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to keep it PG for our viewers at home online. Okay. But we understand your method of coping to get through this time period. And as we move forward with understanding how you move through life, I must ask, at what point were you able to walk back into the church?
Well, I remember when they finished rebuilding the church in June of 1964. So my mother took us back. But I didn't stay in there because she would go right over where she used to sit. And it was right where they bombed the church. And she would sit there, and I guess she looked at me and seen I wasn't too happy sitting there. And she bought us out. I was so glad because I didn't want to be in there anymore. Cause I thought another bomb might go out.
Right.
So she bought us out.
So have you gone back to the church? I mean, I know you've been to the church since, and you've been speaking and talking about what happened. But as an adult, how long did it take for you to go back in there?
Back into to the 16th Street Church?
Yes, ma'am.
I went back maybe about when I got older, and I found out maybe somebody had their funeral there. So I went back to a funeral a couple of times, but I never did go back. I go there now because his classes would come from California, and this guy would come. He always want me to come and tell my story. So I do that maybe about 4 or 5 times out of a year, and I teach them and let them know, what happened.
Okay. Well, I really want to focus on your life. I know the bombing is a huge part of your life, but it's not all of your life. Right. So let's talk about Ms. Sarah Collins-Rudolph after the bombing. What have you started doing healthcare-wise? What's been going on healthcare-wise for you?
Well, healthcare, my left eye started giving me trouble. I got glaucoma, and back then I always think, I said, well, they say that marijuana, healed it. So, but I think that's what helped me a lot when it came down to it. But anyway, when I stopped smoking it, I got my life together. Okay. And then that's when it got worse, so I know that's what it was. They helped me. So anyway, after I stopped doing that, my doctor gave me some drops to put in it for the glaucoma, and I did this for maybe about 30 years, I say. So after a while, the drops didn't work anymore. So what the doctor had to do, he had to put an incision in my eye to drain the fluid, because he told me that from now on, I would always have to see him, because he had to check to see if the incision still there, because I could go blind. Because when I started going to see the doctor, they said my eye pressure was 50, and he said that was really blinding state for glaucoma. But he got it down. So I've been pretty good.
Now, do you have any glass or anything left over affecting your eye now?
Oh, yes. I still have a piece of glass in that eye, but my doctor won't remove it. Since I have one eye, he don't want to, make a mistake and go blind. So he said, as long as it doesn't give me any trouble, he was just gonna just leave it there. So I still have a piece there.
You still have a piece there. Just, it's a constant reminder.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about relationships.
Okay.
So you have your wonderful husband who is a Vietnam veteran here, Mr. George Rudolph.
Yeah.
Your shining knight. How did this come about?
Well, we went to school together, high school together. And, back there during that time, I had all these bruises and things on my face because I had about 20-some pieces of glass just hit me in the face. And, these young guys, they don't want to talk to nobody like that. But anyway, George wasn't that type of guy. He would come in, he would say, Sarah Collins. Well, anyway, he was real nice. He didn't look at the fact that how I was looking, so he was just a nice guy. But that's all he would say. Sarah Collins, that's all you did say. Sarah Collins. But anyway, when we graduated, only time I would see George was downtown. He had his little uniform, veteran thing on, so we would run into each other. But it wasn't until the year 2000 we ran into each other at the post office. So he was in the line at the post office, and he seen me coming in. He got out of line and ran into me, and he was talking about, did I want to see the yearbook? He would carry that yearbook around because, he wanted to let me know who was dead. It died. So anyway, I was going to the house because after I left the post office, I was going to the house to eat my chicken. So he's talking about, I said, George, I don't have time to see the yearbook. And he said, well, I said, cause I'm finna go home and eat my chicken. He said, well, you can go eat your chicken at my house. So I said, okay. So this what happened. I didn't know anything about what he was driving, but the first car came from out the post office. I followed that car, and I followed for so many miles, and I followed. It was a lady in the car. And I went all the way to her house from the post office. And when she got out of her car, I said, I'm so sorry. I thought it was friends of mine. I know I scared you to death following you all the way here. And she said, that's all right. So anyway, I came on back and I checked the phone, and see what George still with his parents, because I knew his dad was a preacher. So I called. He was there at the house. And I told him, I said, I followed the wrong car. And he said, I was wondering where you was going. So anyway, I went on over. We got together. He came on back to the post office. And so we got to talking. And later on, I think later on, I don't know whether that year or the next year, maybe the next year, we got married. And he was just always a nice Christian guy, and I had liked him, really liked him.
And yesterday you celebrated your 22nd wedding anniversary.
Yes, yesterday.
So I had to include that because your wedding anniversary is yesterday, as well as your birthday.
Yeah.
So we thank you so much for sharing two major events with us, especially your birthday and your anniversary. So I do want to take a quick moment, and I want to go back a little bit to this time period of 1963, and I want to just grab this here, or Dr. Reese, you got the clicker for me? The clicker. There. Thank you. So I know we were talking about this. There's a picture behind us here of your mother and brother.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us about this picture?
Well, that's me laying there, and the patches on my eyes, and I didn't really know they was even there. But anyway, I believe my brother was trying to talk to me, but I was just really, at that time, angry. And most of the people that came in there, I didn't want to talk to them because of the fact that I was mad, and really, I would seem like I just didn't really want to be bothered. Now, maybe that picture there, I probably was talking to my brother and mother, but it was many times that the people came from the 16th Street Baptist Church. I just played like I was asleep because I didn't want to be bothered with them.
So, talking about communication, not wanting to communicate, I know that it was probably extremely hard to be in this mental state and then having to speak to people. Do you think that has anything to do with people not knowing who you are?
Well, well, it took me a while to really get out and talk about it. So they was calling me things like the forgotten girl and the unknown person, whatever. But at that time, I really didn't want to talk about it because I was a very quiet person in life anyway. I took that after my dad. He was very quiet, and that's the way I was. And I was too nervous, and I was too fearful. And every time I would think about what had happened to me and my friends, my sisters, when I think about that, I would be angry. And I was angry for a long time about them putting that bomb in the church, killing, my sister and those friends.
Right.
So I didn't talk about it.
And I truly appreciate you talking with us today. I know it's a hard story to constantly tell over and over, but we are very thankful that you are telling this story and sharing this story because you are not forgotten, and I'm happy that we will keep you and remember you throughout history and throughout the future. In addition to this, I also want to mention, we're talking about, when I'm teaching, I often teach my students about thinking like a detective. Thinking about the victims, thinking about suspects, accomplices, bystanders. And when we think about the overall story of the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, I do want to take a quick second to talk about the suspects. As far as the people who created this long-lasting, historical, tragic event, can you tell us what happened to them?
Yes. Well, in 1977, they convicted Robert Chambers, and I had to go and give my testimony. So he stayed in jail for maybe a few years. So he died. He gone. And so then it was Cherry, Bobby Frank Cherry, and Thomas Blanton. They was free for 39 years before they went to the bar of justice. So when they had their trial in the year of 2021, they went to jail and they just died. And the last one died, Blanton died. It was last year, this year, what?
2020.
Last year. But I know he gone. So anyway, they lived their life. Those girls didn't get a chance to live their life. They worked, they ate good, they did everything, but they never did confess to the fact that they was the one that put the bomb there when it was on tapes. The FBI had on tapes telling about, they said something like segregation. They don't want us to keep things segregated, but this coming Sunday, they're going to beg for us to keep things segregated. Because that's what he told his family while they were sitting at Cherry's family, while they were sitting at the dinner table. He would talk about it all the time. But anyway, he gone now. And I hope he repented, because that was wrong for them to kill those girls.
39 years.
39.
39 years they stayed away from jail
Yeah.
and were able to live their lives.
Yeah.
And 4 little girls never got a chance to grow old.
Right.
So, moving forward with this event and how it shaped your life, you had mentioned earlier that you had left the church, you came to the hospital, and you were greeted with a nurse who basically told you that there was no one there to assist you right away.
Yeah.
And I wanted to show this picture because I know that just recently you met the nurse who came to assist you for the first time in September of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell
Yeah.
us about this meeting?
Oh, yes. Can't even, they had that, they put that in the paper about me and her. I'm trying to think of her name. What her name? I can't even think of her name. But anyway, we met that day, and she's a nice lady, and she said she was the one that took care of me when I was in the hospital. But by me couldn't see her anything, I never did know how she looked until we got together that day. We went to her house.
And this reunion was in September of this year
Yes.
for the first time.
Yeah, it's the first time I ever met her. She's a very nice lady. And she said when she was a nurse, I remember some of the nurses that was there, they called me their little child, but then they took care of me. At night, they was bring food and feed me like I was a little kid, which I was a kid, but they kind of spoiled me,
And I know I was doing some research here. She's about, I think, around 100, 100 years old.
Was she? I think she if she not 100, she close to it.
Right, yeah. So
But she's still by herself, and that's her house. She keep her house real nice.
Now, talking about, so you've had some highlights. I know you received a honorary doctorate
Yes.
from Oakland University for what field?
Nurse.
Nursing.
Yeah, I always wanted to be a nurse. But after what I went through, I wasn't able to, be a nurse. And it was just the people at Oakland University, and they gave me a nursing degree. And it was really nice. It was some really nice people.
So at a very young age, you had dreams to become a nurse.
Yes.
Was there anything else you wanted to do?
Well, I remember how my mother used to sew. I always wanted to be a seamstress too, but I sewed a little bit, but it didn't look right. So I left that alone.
And now that you are now sharing your story with the community, you are able to travel a great deal. And I know we had to wait for you to come because you had to work on yesterday. You work. You still work.
I didn't work yesterday, though.
You don't have to work. So tell us about what you do now.
Well, I still take care of this little lady, and been taking care of her for a while. It's just good to get out the house because I don't want to sit around and get arthritis. So I just try to keep moving on, because you lay there so long. After a while, you start getting sick. So I just do it to get out the house.
Get out the house. And you've been taking care of this lady for how long?
Maybe about 20-some years. Yeah. So she's a very nice lady, and I like working with her because I don't have any trouble, with her or anything like that.
Well, you get a chance to be a nurse and caretaker in some way.
Yeah.
Still get a chance to live your life and help the way you've wanted to.
Yeah.
And so as we prepare to shift, I want to ask now, as far as Birmingham is concerned, I know you are still there. And when we think about terrorist attacks or incidents quite like what you've experienced, there's usually some type of apology or acknowledgement. What has Birmingham done for you?
Nothing. Zero. Nothing. I've been trying to get restitution for what they did because, back there during that time, all of the hate and all the things that was happening back there then, the governor Wallace, I know some people, you all may have heard about him. He was the type of person, he was standing to the University of Alabama doing segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. And he was involved in all the hatred that was going on. So I figured between him and Bull Connor riding around in that army tank, how they would do us, I figured I know for us back, they owe me restitution. Because if they hadn't done what they did, those girls would be alive. But they practically had those people to bomb that church. Because when he talked like that, saying things like segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation, he was promoting all the hate that was going on, and they just went along with it. So I know they owe me restitution because they didn't have to do what they did. They didn't have to hate us like they did. We were just blacks. We wanted out, we wanted things integrated, but they didn't.
And when we talk about this time period of civil rights, this is the time period where people were fighting for civil rights, and Martin Luther King Jr. was present, very present in Alabama, especially in Birmingham. Unfortunately, he was the person that delivered the eulogy at the funerals for the 4 little girls. Can you tell us about being able to be around in this time with Martin Luther King Jr. and experiencing him?
Well, I remember on Easter Sunday. On Easter Sunday, we always have a movie downstairs, 10 Commandments, and we would come back to see it. So I remember Martin Luther King was standing on the top of the stairs, and he was telling the people to come on in to the mass meeting. And he had a bullhorn in his hand, and he was telling, come on in, because 16th Street Baptist Church could fit a lot of people. It was a very big church. And that's where they would come. And when they got up there, you ought to seen the people just marching up the steps. going in. So we went on downstairs to see the movie, so I didn't get a chance to see them just up real good. But I remember when my mother was getting ready to have Addie's funeral, he came over to the house. And he talked to my mother, and he talked to my brother, because my brother, who was up there, you seen, he told him, he told my brother, that's Roy, he wanted to do something to a bunch of white folks. And he had this knife in his hand. He said that he wanted to go out there and kill a bunch of whites. You know how they talk back there. But anyway, Martin Luther King told him, he said, son, he said, don't do that. He said, that cause if you do something like that, that make you just like them. So he listened, and I was so glad, because he was mad. He was really mad because of the fact what happened to me, and Addie was killed. And Addie and I was his favorite sisters. I had most sisters, but they weren't his favorite.
And so when you talk about Addie, tell us about Addie. What was Addie like?
Addie was so sweet. You would never hear her talking about anybody, no one. She was just a person that loved people, and everybody loved Addie too. And when it came down to playing baseball or whatever, Addie would go out there and find her a stick. Cause back then we didn't have a real bat. We had a stick, so she went out there and found her stick and found a little ball and wanted to play ball all the time. She loved baseball, and she liked playing different games. We came up on making up little games and things, and she just loved to have a good time.
That's amazing. Did she have any particular dreams that she shared as far as what she wanted to be?
Yeah, Addie wanted to be an artist because she can draw so good. That's what I really believe what she'll be doing now. If she was alive, an artist.
And I know we talked about Addie, your family background. Tell us about your family. So you are one of...
I'm the youngest. I was the baby. And Addie was the knee baby. That's the baby out before the baby.
And how many?
I had, during that time, I had, it was 6 girls. My mother had 6 girls and 2 boys. But the boys, they wasn't, they was older. And as we was growing up, they had already left the house and got married or left going out of town. Because Roy, he moved, and my other brother, he got married. Mm-hmm. So my sisters, other sisters, they was, it was another one named Addie. I never did understand that. Why my mother would marry 2 girls, Addie. Well, it was Addie Mae, the one who was killed, and it was Addie B. So I asked, at least my sister asked my mother, why did you name 2 girls Addie? She said, well, I'm naming that because she said maybe one of them would grow up to be something. So that's why she made, I don't know if it's a joke or what, but that's what she said. Maybe one of them would grow up to be something.
Okay. So, what a story. I mean, when you think about the story, I do want to I didn't get a chance to tell the audience that we have some cards to come around because we want to open up the floor for question and answer. So we have some index cards for you to write your questions so we can open up the chance for you to interact with Miss Sarah Collins-Rudolph to talk about her life story. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand so we can get you a couple of cards out here.
Professor, mention that part about Sarah had to forgive those men.
Oh, yeah, I did. I had to forgive him because I was mad at him a long time. And I was so mad until it was showing on my face. I didn't know I was looking like that until I went to different stores. And I had this mad look on my face, and these people would come to me and say, "What's wrong with you?" And I just tell them, I just look like this. So I went on and I had to forgive those people because I didn't want to go around hating, and especially had that look on my face. Yeah, I was angry, but it took me a while to just really stop looking like that.
Absolutely.
Questions? Just give me a quick show of hands. Any questions? Brief.
After going through all of that and during that time frame where it was very segregated, how did that ultimately affect you over the length of your life now, your view on white and black, and when we all finally came together?
Well, right now, it's much better because, back there during that time, everything was out in the open. And they would do things in the open. Because I stayed in a neighborhood where it was white and black. The white lived about 2 blocks from us up the hill. And they would talk about us and say bad things. And they wasn't trying to hide anything. And I was angry. But now I don't feel that way because, I remember how the whites marched with us. It was a lot of whites that marched with us. And they didn't like what was going on during that time. People, their parents taught them how to hate. So I guess that's all they knew, was to hate blacks because they were taught in their homes.
Mrs. Rudolph, do you think that racism will always exist in America?
Yes. Yes, because as we go, especially since Trump went up there, Trump bought it back. Trump bought a lot of that back. Cause when he started saying that he was gonna make America great again, I really believe he was talking about he was gonna make America white again. And now that was my opinion. Trump didn't want to do anything for black people. Like when he was in office, what did he do? He gave everything to the billionaires, and he didn't want to do anything for our race. The billionaires didn't have to pay tax. But that's why they want him back up there again. They don't care what he do. When he went up there to stole those papers out there, those Secret Service papers. They know he's supposed to be under the jail now, but they still got him out running around, still over there endorsing people. Now, if it was a black man, he'll be in jail. And he went up there and up there to the Capitol building and told those people to go up there and fight like hell. That's what he told them. But if it was a black man and they went up there in that Capitol building, he'd have been under jail now. But they let Trump have his way too much. And he said on the 15th, he said he got an announcement to make. So I'm waiting to see what it is. I hope he's not saying he's going to be a president again because he's supposed to be in jail.
All right, Ms. Collins, I want to keep you safe here.
Okay.
Now, I got a good question here, good question. So here we go. Were you consulted for the movie by Spike Lee, 4 Little Girls? And what did you think about the film? Did it tell a good story?
Well, I was confronted to be in Spike Lee documentary, but I didn't want to. especially back there then, I wasn't talking. I wasn't saying anything. I was too afraid. Because that bomb left me in a nervous condition, and I wasn't talking about it. And when he asked me, I asked him how much he was going to pay me. He said, I wasn't going to pay you nothing. So I told him I don't have nothing to say.
Once again, we did say that this would be a truth-telling
Yeah.
discussion and
Yeah.
conversation. It doesn't get any more real than Ms. Rudolph.
All right, we got time for maybe one or two more. Any more written questions?
We have another question here.
Right here? Right up here? Is this going to be a political question?
We would like to keep our jobs here.
It is about voting. I'm just curious, at what point did people feel comfortable to get out and vote again? Or like, when was your first voting experience? Did you have the opportunity to ever feel comfortable voting?
Voting? Oh, yes. I started voting as soon as I registered to vote. Because it was so many people that died, but they had those rights to vote. And I went on and registered to vote, and I got out and did it.
Ms. Rudolph, I gather the former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, she's from your hometown. By chance, did you ever know her, or did you ever have any contact with her or anything?
No.
Condoleezza Rice.
No, I didn't, because
Angela Davis, I gather she's from your hometown.
but I didn't get in contact with her. I remember Condoleezza Rice went to Hill School, but by me going through what I went through, I never did meet her. And furthermore, I didn't, like I said, I wasn't doing too much talking to anyone anyway.
Okay. So a couple of things before we get ready to wrap up and conclude. You went on to tell your story, and you wrote it down, which is always very important, so that we have a written record, primary source, and you have a book that people can purchase off of Amazon, and we also have books for you here. The Fifth Little Girl, so let me just see this. The Fifth Little Girl here. And talking about this book, The Fifth Little Girl, sole survivor of the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, how was it putting your story on paper?
Well, the person that helped me with the book,
Tracy Snipe.
He was a professor at Rice State University. So when he began to just tell me to write down things that I wanted to go in it, and that's what he did. So it's a very good book because it talks about not only me, it talks about everything that went on back then during the 60s. It got a lot of history, and people need to know because there was a lot went on, you know. But I remember how Kennedy was killed simply because of the fact that he was trying to help blacks, you know, and he was killed. Brother was killed, Robert Kennedy. So I have a lot of history in there.
Okay. So last question, and I think this might address a couple of questions that we have for our younger generation. What advice would you give our younger generation of students or just our young ones in addressing trauma, life thereafter, experiencing these type of things? We have school shootings and all these things happening nowadays. What advice would you give them to move forward with their lives since you are standing here now?
Well, for one thing, I would tell them to get counseling. You know, now they have that opportunity to get counseling. But the only thing what really helped me at that time was when I went to church, and this pastor had prayed for me. He laid his hands on me. I remember I was sitting down, and I was sitting in church just afraid really to move. and he came up to me and said, "Come here." And when he told me that he came up, he told me that tonight would be your night. And he said, "God is showing me where you have a nervous condition and you suffer with a lot of fear." And I said, "Yes," but he laid his hands on me. And I just hit the floor, you know, and after then, I began to talk. I began to go around and tell my story. So that was the only thing that helped me. I didn't want no more drugs. I didn't want no more alcohol. I left all of that alone. And I got myself right with God. And he began to help me. Mm-hmm.
Well, Mr. Collins-Rudolph, once again, I just have to say thank you so much for sharing this space. It's been an honor to share this space with you, to hear your story, for you to tell your story. I want you to know as you look behind you that these 4 little girls will never be forgotten, and you never will be as well as the 5th little girl.
Thank you so much.
We will remember you. We will remember your story. It's recorded. It is in the book. And if you are interested in purchasing her book, she is going to be signing books afterwards. We do have a reception outside there if you will be interested in staying behind. And once again, just want to tell everybody thank you for tuning in online as well as being in attendance today. We really appreciate having Miss Sarah Collins-Rudolph here, and we wish you very safe travels back.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.